So during an actual wildfire event where we have low relative humidity, high winds, high temperature, what you're going to see is wildlife in general running across the roads, trying to escape the flames. Essentially, if they're downwind from the fire, they are going to know about that. But in these uncharacteristic events, we have a lot of spot fires that occur further down creek or further downwind. And what happens is these wildlife are probably not allowed to escape. In a fire last year, south of Highway 4, north and south of Highway 4, over by Cerro de los Pinos, we had a few records of mortality. And that fire didn't move quite as fast as this one did on its southern flank. However, if we were to have a prescribed fire in this same area, within conditions that we're somewhat comfortable with burning in, I think the wildlife have a lot more time to adjust, and they aren't going to be, running for their lives. There's multiple ways to look at a wildfire. So if you have high severity patches that burn during low RH and hot days and things, we have these large areas that have stand replacement. And so the way you can look at it for large ungulates like deer and elk is what that fire is going to do is it essentially releases that piece of ground from having any shade cover within that area. So as long as we don't get a monsoon cell sitting right above that high severity, washing off the topsoil, we should get some pretty good regeneration of mast producing plants. So mast is just a fancy word for food production. So out here, some of our primary producers for our bear and mule deer are gamble oak. So it's a native species which, as the fires and fuels folks will joke, kind of takes over areas post-fire. Now, if you're a large ungulate, you don't mind that at all, because you're going to have green, fresh shoots, and then eventually when the plants get a little bit older and taller, they are going to start producing acorns. So bear productivity is directly linked to the amount of mast production from gamble oak within this area. There's many studies that indicate that when we have a good precipitation year, our bear population goes up, and so does our mule deer, etc. And so, say you were a Mexican spotted owl that liked that northern aspect with the mixed conifer that was nice and shaded and had its own microclimate, well, you aren't going to really be able to nest in that area anymore. However, as it recovers, there are positives for the owl as well. Having that stand replacement actually will attract young rodents, and it's going to, depending on how much down wood actually accumulates on the ground and how much soil still remains, all those herbaceous plants that are starting to shoot up the next year and then up to about year 5, that is going to be excellent small rodent habitat. So, you can look at it two ways. And I think with the low severity on the edges of this fire, that still maintains our upper canopy cover, but what it does is it removes the pine cast. The pine needles do accumulate over time, and then they are quite acidic, so they don't allow the herbaceous layer to grow through the trees, or through the duff there. And so when you get these fires that clean up all those pine needles, what it's going to do is it's going to allow that herbaceous layer to come back up, grasses, and so you're going to still have your tall ponderosa pines and perhaps some Doug fir, but you're also going to get your grass and herbaceous layer recruitment back.